All right, so here we go. It's going to be the same process on this. We do have a little bit more going on with the base here. So let's see, we have x minus 1 raised to the power of 7 over 3 equals 128. So once again, you could take this in pieces. Like I could start by raising both sides to the power of 3 and then taking the 7th root of both sides. But if I were to do that, it would make, raising this to the power of 3 is going to make that a pretty big number. I mean, it's fine. You can use a calculator. But the easiest thing to do is to raise both sides to the reciprocal of the power, which would be 3 over 7. So we'll go ahead and do that. And so then this basically nullifies with this. It basically turns into a 1. When you multiply that together, you get 21 over 21, which would be to the power of 1. So at that point, I can just write the base without, I don't need the parentheses anymore because I have the understood power of 1. And then over here, I'm going to have to take the 7th root of 128, and then I'm going to have to raise that result to the power of 3. Now, these are going to work out nicely on purpose, okay? There is a way to put this in the calculator, but also if you look back in the notes, you should have a table of powers that should kind of help you. If you look at that, you can see that that's going to turn into a 2 right here. So I'm going to get x minus 1 equals 2 to the power of 3. Now you'll notice I didn't put the plus or minus this time. And the reason I didn't do that is because the root is odd. I'm doing an odd root. If it's even, that's when you have to put that plus minus, and you have to look at it as being a positive and or a negative result. Okay, so 2 to the power of 3 is going to be 8. And then we'll go ahead and add 1 to both sides. And so we're going to get x equals 9 right there. I'm going to go ahead and continue on to the next one because the next one is actually pretty similar to this one. So let's go ahead and look at the next one that was submitted right here. So question number 7 from the homework. So this one, you have to do a little bit more work to isolate it. So what I would do to start is to add 160 to both sides. So then we end up with 10 times x to the power of 2/3 equals 160. And then we'll go ahead and divide both sides by 10. Okay. So we're going to get x to the power of 2/3 equals 16. And then we're going to raise both sides to the reciprocal, which would be 3 over 2, 3 over 2. So technically that denominator is the root. So I'm actually square rooting both sides. So this is going to be one where I do have to put the plus or minus the square root of 16 and then raise to the power of 3. Okay. And so then the square root of 16 is 4, so positive and negative 4. And then if you raise that to the power of 3, 4 times 4 times 4 is going to be 64. And if you do negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4, that's going to be negative 64. So the answer is positive and negative, or positive 64 or negative 64. All right. And so we got one more, but I'll do that in the next video.